Hey man, so what was that bloody weekend like there, Dan? We were talking to a few select people just to get accustomed to doing these little videos. We want to do more of them, and we went to the California Assembly of the Green Party this weekend.
Well, first you should have introduced me, but I'm Jason. This is
Oh,
Richard.
yeah, I'm
This is
Richard.
Facts for Working People.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Bakersfield. It was quite a show. And when I say quite a show, I think it was a circus. But
Well, it was pretty dismal to say that.
well, remember what Andrea said? It reminded her of her uncle's funeral last year in Arizona.
Yeah, well, her uncle's funeral, if she's got any Irish in her, it was probably more, her uncle's funeral was probably a little livelier.
A little German though.
Oh, well, they Germans like
German,
to enjoy
Mexican.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
German, Mexican, a lot of accordions.
Yes, quite a few.
Norteños and
yes.
polkas. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting to be in a county. Well, we've got a couple of pictures. That's one of the poorest. And what was it that Guy said about that county?
It was the highest murder rate per capita county in the United States. So I think it was, even the Wall Street Journal had mentioned some things about poverty,
Yeah.
but you found an article in The Guardian from December of 2015 where Kern County was ranked #1, but more astonishingly, I thought, was that 5 counties in the top 10 were in Southern California.
That's
San
incredible.
Diego, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Kern County. That's ridiculous. And then not only that, the pollution, we saw it. I mean, the air in that town was horrible.
Unbelievable. And everybody, it's sort of a joke. You mentioned Bakersfield to anybody, and it's like a joke, you know. People say it's the asshole of the world and all of this. I mean, really, that's a tragedy in a sense, isn't it? Because you've got most billionaires in this state. You've got Hollywood a few miles away, really. It's fairly close to LA.
Well, not only that, but look at just the wealth. Look at the wealth that comes out of that county from petroleum. I mean, for 100 years, that has been one of the wealthiest oil reserves in the state, but it has almost 30% of its population living in poverty today.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Latinos down there.
Very much, and they're under attack by the police.
Yeah.
What you have is this white aristocracy almost that controls the police departments, they control the small businesses, they control the state houses, or their representatives to the state house and to Congress. I believe even the majority leader, Kevin McCarthy, in U.S. Congress is from Bakersfield. So you have this, in that Guardian article that you sent me, it talks about the chief of police in Bakersfield. His wife is a superintendent or a principal at one of the schools, and they're telling the children to actually go and support the police officers, give cards and say how great the police officers are.
Wow.
Yet at the same time, some of these children's relatives are being killed right there in the streets of Bakersfield by these very same police.
More people shot by the police in that county than anywhere else in the U.S.
More than New York City.
Wow.
We hear about how bad Chicago is, about the brutal police officers and the what were they calling these black sites where they would take people, torture them.
Yeah.
But this is in Bakersfield, California. And you know, California gets this liberal reputation.
Yeah.
They talk about how great it is to live in California. California's going to stand up against Trump. But this is happening right here in the same very state.
Yeah, and the other thing I was thinking of was just the soil as we drive. When you think about it, we were talking about this when we were driving down there. Is it's all artificial, really. It's one of the most productive agricultural areas in the world.
One third of the food in the United States comes out of California.
Yeah, but it's all water's imported, labor's imported, the soil fertilized. So it's not productive soil in that real sense. For food, for growth. And I think that LA businessman, I think his name's Resnick, I forget his first name, Stu Resnick maybe, and his wife, they're billionaires.
The one that owns the reservoir?
Yeah, he owns an aquifer. He owns this aquifer. Now, you know there's a lot of subsidized water for agriculture down there.
Yes.
And also he has this 188 square mile farm where he's producing pistachios. Two human beings in the world control 30% of the world's pistachio market. I mean, that's incredible when you think about it. So,
and that's not even really culturally in California. Almonds as well are you brought up pistachio nuts, but I think almonds right away. And we talked about this, the almond milk, everyone that thinks they're really protecting the environment by drinking almond milk. But culturally, it's China and Iran were the biggest almond consumers. And now we have almond production in the very same regions sucking all this water. We're in the midst of the 5th year of a drought. We've had a lot of rain this year to restock that snowpack. We saw the problems that were happening up in Oroville Dam.
yeah.
But just thinking about the agriculture that we have in the state is not sustainable. It's completely dominated by industrial agriculture.
Agribusiness.
They're fertilizing with petrochemicals, herbicides, pesticides, contaminating the soil again, like you said, but also the water. Just the way that they irrigate. I mean, it's just not efficient. They're spraying water up in the air, and it's in the middle of a desert. It baffled me. And again, the air quality. That was the worst air quality. I mean, some people had asthma.
We couldn't see down there all the time. Well, you know, the other thing, that, as you're mentioning that, I was thinking about when we were driving down and we saw these signs. You get the impression, or you're supposed to, they give the impression, well, it's the small farmer and they're struggling. There were signs like less trains, alluding to the bullet train expenditure.
More reservoirs is what they're saying.
Yeah, less trains, more dams. In other words, more water storage areas and this sort of thing. And the thing is with that is it all sort of links into that question of Oroville Dam, because we were saying as we were going, there was one sign, it said, is growing using water
food a waste of water?
No,
yes.
Yeah, is using water for growing food a waste of money? And of course, no, it depends who's growing the food, what we're growing, where is it going, and everything. In other words, is it a collective process? Is it done in harmony with nature? That's really what we're talking about. And it made me think also about the Oroville Dam. Now, the people in that area now, I was reading about this, that they're concerned about the fact that they lost 3 days' pay, they had to eat out. There was a huge cost to these people that live in that community. And the radio was saying that I think it was KNBR, was saying there tends to be a conservative element in this part of the world up there, and this is going to make them distrust government more, and they're right to distrust government more. But the problem is, they don't think what they really want them to do, or the big business really wants them to do, is to say, well, government's no good, the private sector can handle it. But the problem is the state is really what we would call the capitalist state, or the private sector state, and that's what they're trying to do, drive us into the public sector, into the private sector. But that the whole process should actually be a collective process. We don't live in a workers' state, or a state that's a democratic workers' state. So it's not that the collective process or the private sector is better than the collective process. We don't have a collective process, and that's the problem with dams, with agriculture, with manufacturing, with everything.
But also you have to add the fact that there was about 10 years, a decade's worth of deferred maintenance on these dams, because there was no money. Because
there was money, but they don't.
Well, they used it for other things.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And let's talk about water. Let's go back to that again. It's not a natural process what they're doing there in the Central Valley.
Yeah.
But the water rates. I mean, Mark Reisner spoke about this decades ago in his book Cadillac Desert, where he spoke about that the average consumer and the amount of money they had to pay for a cubic foot of water was in the $300 range or so, but these industrial farmers are getting subsidized water rates as low as $3.50 for the exact same amount.
Yeah.
And that's just ridiculous, because everyone thinks that it's that business can solve everything, yet business itself can't even operate without the subsidies from the government.
Yeah, and the thing is that touches that cuts into the question about immigration and all that we hear in the media about immigrants are costing us money. They go to our hospitals, all of this stuff, and about you never hear the defense. Well, it's not actually defense, but offense expenditure. I mean, the greatest receivers of government subsidies is capitalism. You know, if you look at manufacturing, you can go. I used to work here in Emeryville. You know, where Emeryville.
I know Emeryville.
Andrea works there. Well, I worked there before that was all those stores were put there.
Before all the hipsters came in with the condos.
Yeah, before they all came in, and you would I'd put my backhoe bucket in there and lift it up, and literally it would be dripping and stinking. The beds of the trucks would be lined, because they take the stuff down to Kettleman City. That's a dump. Further down the I-5 where they put toxic stuff, and that's all picked up by the taxpayer. That's not considered in the books of the companies, the cleanup of the stuff they do. So
those are those externals that they don't factor in.
Yeah.
So when you look at, I mean, just think of the last 120, 140 years of capitalism in America, is that it's just been narrowed down to a production function as a relationship between labor and capital. Resources don't get figured into that because they're swallowed up by capital. Land doesn't get figured into that because it's swallowed up by capital. So when we're looking at negative externalities, toxic chemicals, climate change, environmental degradation, the air quality, capitalism's not concerned about those things at all.
Well, it's just like what they call blockbuster drugs. They talk about blockbuster drugs. Well, most of these medical innovations are discovered in private universities.
That's right.
And then the private sector gets a hold of them.
Well, the same thing happened with agriculture in the late 1800s,
Yeah.
right here, UC Berkeley, before UC Davis. This was a land-grant university where they were going to train farmers how to develop sustainable technology or new methods to farm. But once these things became profitable and they became industrialized, they were turned over and released to capital, and they developed markets for them. But all the research, just like right here in the Bay Area, San Jose, people don't want to talk about it, but that entire Silicon Valley is a company town. The United States Department of Defense and NASA were probably 70% of all of the orders that were coming out of that region during the Cold War. Once they developed this technology, they, what's the word I'm looking for, they perfected it, then they released it to the market. And that when you see the 70s, 80s, 90s, mass consumerism in electronics and data and technology.
Well, here's the thing: we were down in Bakersfield because we're both Green Party members, and the California State Assembly was there.
We don't know for how long, though.
Yeah, we don't know for how long. I mean, those of us that follow our blog, they know that we were in some of us joined the Green Party. Our position on the Green Party is that it is not a capitalist party, it is not a workers' party at this point in time, and its future is not defined. And that we've had amazing developments here in the United States around the Trump, around Bernie Sanders, and at that time we're talking to some youth, and we felt that were around the Bernie Sanders campaign, and we felt that there would be some movement into the Green Party by some of these youth when Sanders eventually
Capitulated?
Capitulated. He wrote his latest book is Das Capitulation.
Yes,
Is
Our
that-
Revolution, but it should be Our Capitulation.
Yeah, Das Capitulation. But so we were there, and to be quite honest, we're just about done here. But to be quite honest, it's pretty dismal that the Green Party. This is the state where it has most. I think it's what
the
did you say?
majority of elected officials. So traditionally, the Green Party's been known for having over its lifetime about 1,000 members. At one time or another, claimed to be Green Party members that were actually elected to public office.
Yeah.
Currently, there's about 139, I believe, is the official number through Green Party USA. 60 plus are here in the state of California. However, I don't recollect meeting anyone that was actually an elected official as a Green Party member there. There were about 58 delegates, almost 100 people. One of the representatives, or a gentleman that's running in LA for the House of Representatives, Mejia, he's claiming to be a Green. He's a Bernie-crat. He wasn't even there. Jill Stein, of course, was there with her entourage. They were building their version of the party. But again, dismal state of affairs here in California. We're supposed to be the leader of the Green Party in California. But again, I thought that Green Party convention looked like a Sunday barbecue at the local VFW. It was very poor turnout. There was no excitement. It was dismal. And I would hate to think what this party is going to look like if it continues in this trajectory.
Yeah, and somebody had used the expression, Jill Stein, for example. I don't know, what is she in the party? We have three major points that we raise in the Green Party. One, that it campaign around its eco-socialist platform. An eco-socialist platform was adopted, and during the campaign for president and vice president, they never mentioned it. So we feel that that's one of our points. Also, orienting more toward the working class. Well, I talked to a guy there. There's been a big union event in the county this person is from. He doesn't know anything about that. Unions, they don't even think about the rank and file, not the bureaucracy of the unions, but orienting not just to the organised working class, but the unorganised working class. And that on the one hand, and also this ridiculous consensus method. One person described it as, well, it's a party for all people. Well, you're out. You've fell from the off, if that's the question.
It's a defeatist mentality.
Yeah, it's just a social club.
We're so desperate, we want everyone to come.
Yeah.
And now that you mentioned social club, someone told me the same thing, that it was almost like it was an activist group where people can just get together, form kind of a social club, and talk to people that had similar ideas, but it was not a political party. And one of the persons also mentioned this consensus, that he felt that the consensus was paralyzing itself because it allowed all these people to digress into their own issues and get off topic, and it's not a way to build a party. You have to have a democratic form where all voices are heard, to even the minority voices, but then again, all members should be able to cast a vote, and the majority decision should govern the party.
That's correct. Now, we're going to end this right now. We hope to be doing a few more of these. We're not skilled. We don't come from this background, but with today's technology, people like us can do these things. And we have the blog, Facts for Working People. This is Jason. I'm Richard. We hope to do more of these and discuss issues around the world and domestically, internationally, and stuff like that. And so we'll say goodbye for now.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas, you want us to cover certain topics, or if you want us to bring up some issues to discuss on this show, then we'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah. Take care. Till next time.
Take care.